We begin tonight with a CBC News exclusive. The Air India inquiry will resume tomorrow with striking revelations. The bombing of Flight 182 in 1985 killed 329 people, most of them Canadians. Now, all along, the official story has been that no one saw it coming. But, as Terry Milewski has discovered, the evidence to be presented this week will contradict that official line.
It's been 22 years since the Air India bombing, but only now is John Major's inquiry finally closing in on some embarrassing official secrets. CBC News has learned the inquiry will be told that government agencies had numerous warnings of an attack on Air India, but later claimed otherwise. That is a key issue for the victims' families, many of whom testified last fall that CSIS and the RCMP had to know much more than they've let on. Jayashree Thampi lost her husband and her daughter.
In spite of prior warnings, the intelligence and the security agencies failed to prevent the tragedy. How did the system fail?
For 2 decades now, the official story has been that the system did not fail because there were no warnings. But now, John Major's inquiry, which resumes here tomorrow, is about to puncture the secrecy over a long series of detailed warnings about a coming attack on Air India. It turns out that these warnings began months beforehand and came from police informers, from the Indian government, and from Air India itself, which told the RCMP 3 weeks before the bombing that Sikh militants in Canada were planning to bomb its flights. Hints of all of this emerge in this censored version of a top-secret report written in 1992 by a parliamentary committee. It describes many warnings. Air India threatened, more threats to Air India again threatened, and concludes there is no doubt that the government of India warned Canada on a number of occasions that Air India operations were about to be attacked. Even so, the inquiry will hear that the RCMP failed to give details of the Indian intelligence to CSIS, and that the airline itself failed to check bags against passengers, allowing an unaccompanied bag onto the plane. But there is much more. Several different police informers inside the Sikh extremist movement were also reporting on the bomb plot.
Stuff that you gave us was right on.
Paul Besso was one. 20 years ago, he told the CBC that he was spying on Sikh drug dealers when he heard about the plot.
I was wearing a body pack and my van was wired, so the RCMP actually have a transcript of a tape telling them of a plot against Air India days to a week before it happened.
Add to that the fact that CSIS followed the leader of the plot, Talvinder Parmar, to a test bombing on Vancouver Island, this being just 3 days after the tip from Air India about time bombs. Meanwhile, police in Vancouver monitored a meeting of Sikh militants, one of them complaining that no ambassadors have been killed. What are you doing? Nothing. Answer, you will see, something will be done in 2 weeks. At the same time, another informer at this Sikh temple in Malton, Ontario, reported that Sikhs were being warned that it would be unsafe to fly Air India. At the time, there was only one weekly Air India flight, number 182. But still, Canadian governments have always insisted the threat was not clear.
I should point out to the House that there was no indication that there was a specific threat to Flight 182.
That was a Conservative minister 20 years ago, and when the Liberals were in power, it was the same story.
They were not in a position to know that there would be a terrorist attack on an Air India aircraft.
So far at the inquiry, the present government has echoed the same line. There was no warning. But that story seems unlikely to survive the evidence of the coming week. Terry Milewski, CBC News, Ottawa.